There we go. So we're being recorded now, just so y'all know. So I want to welcome everybody to the October German gig meeting. It's Oktoberfest month. I'm guessing nobody's going to Oktoberfest though, right?
This year.
Not this
It
year.
was canceled.
So my hometown was putting on their live Facebook group Little Miss Oktoberfest competition last week, and so you saw the little blonde-haired girls with their German outfits on for the Little Miss Oktoberfest competition up in Ohio. So
Can I butt in? I think
Yep.
you need to invite me.
Need to invite you. Who am I talking to?
Shirley.
Shirley.
Or just click on the video.
Now her video's not working for some reason. So
Yeah, because I can see all of you.
yeah, you're in our list, and it shows that your camera's turned on, but for some reason your video doesn't show. And I'm not sure why that is.
Yeah, because it's supposedly working.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to try to figure out how to fix that maybe later.
Yeah, because when I go to participant, it says invite.
Yeah, I've got you in there. I mean, you're sitting there in the participants list.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I don't know how to get it. Okay, I'll be
Yeah.
quiet.
So I wanted to go. I'm going to share a screen here, and this is our German genealogy map. Notice all of the red dots. Those are all the surnames that you guys have been entering in so far. And everybody who's been on that email previously should have access to that, the links that we sent out August, probably, with all the surnames.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, take a look at the map again. I'll keep updating. I need to update it again. I haven't updated it for the last week or week and a half. And you'll be able to zoom in on the areas where your family's from and collect those names and see if anybody else is researching the same area. So,
Can you move it up a bit?
what's that?
Can you move the map up a bit?
Can you hear me, Miles?
You're very quiet.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Could you possibly send me that link? I wasn't a member in August.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll resend out the links to everybody that's on the list.
Thank you.
So that we get that out. I'll do that after the meeting today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And also, I know some people had Polish German records, and I know at least one person sent me a name of a town, and I told them where it was, and they decided not to put it on. But yeah, if you have any of the Polish records or Austrian records or any of those areas that were previously within the German Empire, you know, enter those names in there. We'll add them in as German surnames and get that list going for those. So, so we were just talking a little bit about, you know, anybody having any successes in their German research, and or if you've had any time to do any more research lately. And it sounded like most people weren't getting involved in a whole lot of their German research yet. But hopefully today, the talk I'll be giving today on discovering clues in U.S. records will give you some ideas of where to start searching. I'm going to do that as a, let's see if this comes up here. There we go. I'm going to do this as a case study sort of thing. We're going to follow research on one of my ancestors to show how those records, various U.S. records, were helpful in finding information on where the family came from and correcting some of the information that's incorrect on some of the various records. So if we're ready to go, I'll just start on that. And if you have any questions, pipe up and we can have that discussion. And I want to, you know, try to keep track of the time so that we don't go over too much, but we'll see how many questions you guys might have. So what I'm going to be looking at here is my great-grandfather, Bernard Emanuel Emil Garman. He was born on Christmas 1858 in Germany, and he died in January of 1932 in Dayton, Ohio. So there's a picture of him and his wife, Mary Angela Mesher. These are my grandmother's parents. My grandmother was Velma Garman, and she married Ray Meyer. So this is my Meyer Garman Mesher side of the family. So one of the first records that I was able to find on Emil was his death certificate. He died in 1932. So in Ohio, the death certificates start in 1905 and go up to the mid-1950s. And you can see in here, he's listed as Emil Garman, living in Mariastein, Ohio, and died in Dayton, Ohio, at St. Elizabeth's Hospital. Died of diabetes and gangrene associated with diabetes. He was 73 years old. It lists his birthday as December 25th, 1858, and his birthplace as Germany. And his parents' names are listed as J.H. Garman from Germany and Elizabeth Farmer from Germany. So this was a little confusing, but I'll get to why that was confusing in just a little bit. And you also see his burial information at the bottom right-hand corner. He was buried in St. John's Cemetery in Mariastein, Ohio. So a lot of really good information there that helps locate him. He was a retired farmer. And the person who was the informant here was Louis Garman of Mariastein, so one of his children. So of course you would expect his child, one of his sons would know the information pretty well. But as you can see, all I know is Germany is the location. So not very helpful during German research, right? So we'll move on a little bit. I'm looking at the 1930 census. Since he died in 1932, this would be the most recent census for him. And you see his family down here, Emil Garman, Mary, Bertha, Lawrence, and so on. You see he's listed as 71 years old. He owns his property worth $1,000. He was married at the age of 26 and born in Germany, and his parents were born in Germany, and that's about all I get. So the immigration year over on the side, and I'm going to hide the thumbnail here so I can see this. You see it over here in the side, immigration year 1881 and NA, meaning he was naturalized. So that means I should be able to find naturalization records and immigration records for him. So that's a great clue here of what I need to find next. Then moving into the 1920 census, you see his family again, Emil, Marie, August. I can't even figure out what that one is right offhand. Ida, maybe. And you see he's 61 years old, and this is his immigration and naturalization. So I zoomed in on that. Can anybody read the immigration year?
1898.
It looks like they wrote over it several times. So remember the last record had his immigration of 1881. I'm not sure I can find 1881 in that record. But then it says NA, and then it says 1885 after that. And again, it lists Germany as the location. So we're now guessing somewhere 1881 immigration, 1885 naturalization. So we're going to, focus in on those years a little bit. We look at the 1910 census, and you see Emil Garman and his wife, Mary. He's 51 years old, married twice. So this is a second marriage. It's her first. And Germany, and this says immigration 1883. Well, typical of the censuses, the records aren't always right. Luckily, his age goes up 10 years every census, so that's a good thing. You also notice that they had 12 children, 11 were living in 1910. My grandmother was born in 1914. She was the 14th child for the family and the last child. So now we're down to the 1900 census. And again, you see Emil Garman here. December 1858, age 41. And Germany in 1881 for the immigration, and 19 for the number of years he's been in the US, and again, naturalized. So we at least know that, you know, he was naturalized before 1900. That earlier census record said 1885, so that's helping us out. Still, we're in Germany. That's all we know is just the country of Germany. So all the records list Germany as his place of birth. The estimated birth year is somewhere between 1858 and 1859. So very good correspondence with the birth year on the censuses. So that's one thing, you know, sometimes you don't get that good of agreement between multiple censuses. They all list his parents' birthplace as Germany. And the immigration is 1881 or 1883, and the naturalization might be 1885. So we got some good data there to start working off of just based on a couple census records. So the next step is I pulled up his obituary, and his obituary was in the local newspaper. And this is really good because it gives his birthplace as Halvard, Germany. So now we have a town. That's going to be really helpful as we move forward, knowing a town. And we hope that that town is accurate. We can't guarantee it, but we hope it's accurate. His birth date, 25 December 1858. The immigration year in his census is 1882. That's pretty close to the 1881 and 1883 that we had previously. So that works out. And this lists his parents as Clemens Garman and Teresa Volise. So do you notice something different between this and his death certificate? When we go back, the death certificate said J.H. Garman and Elizabeth Farmer. And this obituary says Clemens Garman and Teresa Volise. That's not a good thing. So yeah, are either of them right? Maybe neither of them are right. I don't know. One of them might be right. So we're going to do a little more research. So we start to do his rest of his family. Look at who's listed on the rest of his family. So his brother Clemens, his death certificate lists his parents as Clemens Garman and Teresa Van Lay. His brother William has Clemens Garman and Teresa Van Lay. And his brother Bernard, Reverend Bernard Garman, has Teresa Garman and Clemens Garman and Teresa Garman. Well, now I'm sort of guessing that Elizabeth Farmer might not be right and J.H. Garman might not be right because all of his siblings, at least these three brothers, have Clemens Garman and Teresa as the parents. And so I was able to find a record called the Kansas Alien Enemies Registration. So what's that?
Wow.
Yeah, so this is World War I era. And many of the states had alien enemy registration records.
Yeah.
And so since they were all born in Germany, they were alien enemies. So they filled out this great set of records. And on that record, Bernard Garman lists his birthplace as Halvard, Westphalia, Germany, and the immigration through the port of New York. Very helpful pieces of information. So this is that record. This is the registration of affidavit of alien red enemies. And this isn't a really good copy of it, but you can see it has his fingerprints, has his name, the location. So his name, Bernard Garman, up here in the left-hand corner, and the location where he was living in Kansas. Now, down here we have Bernard Garman and the town in Kansas that he was living in, which is Kingman, Kansas. And then his name, Reverend Bernard Garman. And then what he lists here is a whole lot of other information about where he's lived previously, where his closest relatives live, where his parents were born, where he was born.
Oh,
And so here is the Harvard, Westphalia, Germany. It lists his birth date. It lists he was previously living in Waterloo, Kansas, and another location down here, and lists what his occupation was and his references from that location. So you're seeing a lot of really great information on this one record. So if you have a recent immigrant who may have been naturalized prior to World War I or in that time frame, you know, he was born in Germany, living in the US during World War I, you might want to see if the state archives have alien enemy affidavits. So if you were back in that 1700 immigration time period, that's totally different, you know. And so with that information, saying that he arrived in New York, and so I started doing some research, and according to the immigration stuff, it was in the early 1800s, 1881, 1882, 1883 time frame, the early 1880s. So that would mean if he came into the port of New York, he would have come in through Castle Garden and not Ellis Island, because Ellis Island was the 1890s. So prior to that would be Castle Garden. So I was able to find this record down here of Emmanuel Garman and Clemens Garman right here at the bottom of this page, arriving in June 19th, 1882 on the ship Edam. So there they are. And it says they arrived from Germany. So now I've got his immigration record. And this isn't one of those great immigration records with all of the information. This just tells me he was a farmer, gives me his age, his sex, from Germany, and then where they were headed to. So not a whole lot of great information on this one, but there is a little bit of useful information there. You notice that Emmanuel is 24 and his brother Clemens is 19 when they came across.
Miles,
Yes.
you're coming in very broken. Is it my computer or is it?
I don't know. How am I coming in for everybody else?
Good.
Good.
Nice.
Good.
Okay.
Good for us.
Or
Okay.
the volume maybe is too high.
Yeah. Sometimes I do crack up because every once in a while we have a little bit of a bad connection with our Wi-Fi. But if it starts to come in bad, let me know and I'll repeat anything that you might have missed.
Thank you.
Okay, so then since I knew that he settled in Mercer County, Ohio, and I know that it was in the 1881, 1882 time frame. I remember that this ship's record was 1882. I then went in and looked in the Mercer County probate court records for his immigration documents. And these here are his declaration of intentions. You can see the one on the left is Emmanuel Garman from Germany. And you see here it lists his entry in the US as June 1881. So the ship's record said 1882, this says 1881, and this was signed in 1888. So again, I've got a little discrepancy of what it was, you know, where he was coming in, what time frame, but at least I've found this now. And the next one is the other record for his immigration. And again, you see that he's 29 years of age. He entered the United States June of 1881. He's renouncing his allegiance to the Emperor William of Germany on the 12th of January, 1888. So knowing that it was the 1881, 1882 time frame, I was, you know, it narrows down the time frame for you to search in those probate records. That might be helpful for you when you're looking for these immigration records. And what you want to do with the immigration records is you want to check to see if your county has them in their probate records or if they're in a regional district court record. So in this case here, if it had been in district court, it might have been in Cleveland, Ohio. So you want to check those sort of records to see where they might be storing their immigration naturalization records. And there's several different types of records. So when I showed you that the census record said NA, that was a naturalization. It might have also said PA, and those were the first papers, or it might have said DI, which are your declaration of intentions. So it might have a different code in the census as to what stage in their immigration process they are in. So knowing that they're from Halvard, Germany, I was able to pull up that map, and you can see where this is in that range, in that area of Osnabrück and Vecna, southwest of Oldenburg, north of Munster. And so a lot of the people that settled in Mercer County, Ohio, came from that general area between Oldenburg and Munster region. So what next? Well, I started looking into the records and into the church records for Halvard area. And so I was able to find the church marriage records for that general area, and ended up having to search in Reisenbeck for his parents. And so there's Johann Clemens van Ley. Remember that those death certificates said that the wife's name was Teresa van Ley and the father's name was Johann Clemens Garman. Actually, that was wrong. When you go to the marriage records, it's Johann Clemens van Ley, and his wife was Teresa Garman.
Wow.
So she had the family farm, and so he changed his name to Garman.
Wow.
So you have to be aware of that. You know, in Germany, you may have the husband taking the wife's name when you're looking in those church records because of the land ownership. And so I was able to find that their marriage record in Reisenbeck, Westphalia, Germany, on 1 October 1884 in Family Search, and that's the film number there, that I can go back to that film number and find that marriage record. And notice that that's about 23 kilometers from Halvard. So a little bit further than you usually think of when you talk about, you know, movements of these families. So now with that information, I'm able to continue building the tree. So now you see I have Johann Clemens van Ley and Anna Maria Teresa Garman. And now I can build out his parents, because his parents were listed on the marriage record, Gerhard Heinrich van Ley and Anna Maria Elizabeth Korsmeyer. And her parents were Johann Gerhard Garman and Anna Engel Schwiegmann. And I've got their marriage records now. So I was able to go into the St. Dionysius Catholic Church records in Reichenberg. Right? Was it right? Yeah, Reisenbeck. Actually, Reisenbeck was up here, and these are on, I think, Reichenberg. I think is where these are. And so then I was able to find a few more of those records in the church records, looking up those family names. So once you get into those church records, and you can utilize Myers Gazetteer, and we've talked about Myers Gazetteer in other meetings. You can type in the name of the town and then go to the ecclesiastical section of it and see where the nearest churches are. And you can see if they're Catholic churches, Protestant churches, Jewish, and so on. And then you can go into Matricula for the Catholic church records, or Archeon for the Protestant church records. Matriculars are free. The Catholic church records are free, but the Protestant church records you pay by the days or by the records that you're looking for in order to get those. So that was it on the church records, and now I'm going to stop sharing, or on the U.S. records portion of that. Again, this is fairly recent information. Most of my family immigrated between the 1850s and 1880s into the United States, so I can backtrack on those census records and try to figure out the immigration records and so on. If you're earlier than that, you have to go through a little more complicated process to find the records, because you might not have, death records might not be available for your area prior to 1900. The immigration records, if you came in through New Orleans or Baltimore or Philadelphia or some of those other immigration ports of entry, they may not have as good a record set as you would out of Castle Garden and Ellis Island. So you might have to do a little more research on those. The other thing that's important to look at is don't just rely on that one record. If I would have relied on that one death certificate, I would have been looking for J.H. Garman and Elizabeth Farmer and never found them because they probably didn't exist, So I needed to look at what his siblings had on their records and then try to match up as much of that information as possible to lead me in the right direction as I was doing my research. So how has everybody else gotten from the US back to their German records? What are the things that have been helpful for you in that leap across the Atlantic Ocean?
I'll go first.
Sure.
We have a wonderful wizard down here in the LDS church who goes right into the German records, and he's helped me find a ton of records, because once you get one of them, then it almost always has the marriages and the christenings, and so he helped me get about 32 records in two different sessions. He's amazing. Don, I don't know if you know Don.
And where's that at?
At the LDS church in Palm City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely, once you get into the German church records,
yes,
not only so you get into a baptism record, you find the baptism record for the person you're looking for. It lists their parents, it lists their guardians, who was the witnesses. And sometimes you'll be lucky enough, they also sometimes will list the grandparents on some of those baptismal records. And so this gives you a whole bunch of information to begin stretching out to. And like I said, what I was doing with Borglo, Germany, the church records there, was I was just going through and gathering up every single one of the people with the same last name, Westerheide. And now I've got that list of over 200 records for Westerheide between that 1700 and late 1800, 1900 time frame. And now I'm trying to match them together. So, who were the parents, build the families, and enter that data together in Family Search to bring them, to combine all of that. And sometimes you just have the child and the parents, and you sort of wonder, what other records I need to find in order to build them. So, I'm just starting out with the child's baptism record and the parent's name, and I'll put those in Family Search, and then I'll go to another record, which might be the marriage records, and so on. What was really nice was that the German church records had indexes in them that were by alphabetical order by last name. So I could go right to the index in that church record, that set of church records, and it says, look on page 5, look on page 12, 23, 28. And so I just went right to those pages and pulled the Westerheide records right off of them. So I didn't have to go page by page to search.
wow.
I have a question for you. We have the actual baptismal record that's in German from my husband's grandfather. And it does list his parents' name. His father was Joseph Gottwald, and he was baptized, the son was baptized in Michelstadt, Germany, or Michelstadt, however you say it. And it's a small town. And when you go there, I went there on that, trying to think of the website.
Myers Gas?
No.
No.
I can't think of it right now. But I went through a website where you put the one there, you put in the town.
Yep.
And then you put in the last name. And it listed all these Gottwalds, but there were several Joseph Gottwalds.
Of course.
And then I didn't know which one it was. Yeah. And that then I was kind of stuck. So what would be my next step to try to locate the churches in that area?
Yeah, you would see what the churches are in that area. You would try to find associated people on the records for him. So, you know,
Yeah.
you would, so when I was doing my information gathering, a lot of everybody was named Johann, you know, is Johann Conrad, Johann Karl, Johann Gustav, Johann, you know,
That's my family too.
yeah. So, and then you look at the wife's names, and you know the wives were all Maria Katerina, Maria Gertrude, Maria Barbara, you know, so they were all Maria, and then you try to find, you know, other children who had Johann Conrad and Maria Gertrude, you know,
Right, right.
like, okay, the likelihood that those are the same parents is pretty good. So,
Mhm.
and they're within a couple of years of each other. So let me build a temporary tree with those kids in it and see how that links up to, you know,
Yeah,
the
that's
names.
kind of my problem is I don't know any of the kids.
Yeah.
I don't know any siblings' names. I just have the name off the baptismal record, which is in German, but you can sort of decipher names out of it in places, you know.
Right. Yeah. And if you can find the church records, you know, if you're lucky enough and Matricula has the Catholic church records for that area, let me pull up. I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to go to my page here, and I'm going to pull up another. Let's see. Matricula. Okay, let me know if you can see the screen that pops up here.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
And we'll do more detail on the church records in another talk coming up. But you can go in and click on the map here. And I'm just going to go Borglo right there. And so you can see all of the churches that are identified in here. And each one of these numbers is the number of record sets that are in that area. So I'm going to go to Borglo and hit enter. And so it zips in, and you have a red dot and a blue dot. If I click on the red dot, it gives me the name of the church, and this is St. Pancratius. And I can click on that town, and now you see I've Googled automatically translates it for me. So here are the baptismal records from 1685 to next page, 1900, and the baptism indexes. And then here are the marriage records from 1686 to 1920, and then the indexes for those. And then the funeral records from 1682 to 1920, and then the indexes. And then there's some joint indexes here, and then civil registrations. So you can see this church has a lot of really good records. It has the map from Meyer's Gazetteer here, so you can see what else is around it. And what you'll notice is that if I click on, I'm going to go back to a baptismal record for someplace fairly recent, and I can click on the image for these, and I'll go to a page here. So here's the information.
Oh,
So what you see here, this is the name of the town where the child is born. This is the name of the child. This is the birth date here, January 6th. Here are the names of the parents. Here's the baptism date. And then here's the name of the witnesses. And the witnesses, their town they reside in. You'll see that with the parents also. So the first parent was Eppendorf, Anna Elizabeth Shoemaker. And so this is an illegitimate. You see the next one down here, Caspar Heinrich Petersman and Maria Gertrude Piper from Allendorf. Baptism 18 January, and let's see, it's Ferdinand August Frelling from Allendorf. This person here is from Wellendorf. This one here is from Borglo. So you can see this is Honkenberg. So you're seeing all of the towns that the child was born, the parents were living in, and the witnesses were living in. So this gives you an idea that, you can then look at the maps and see where the families actually lived around the town of Borglo. As long as you can read the text.
Yeah.
You go back a little earlier to the 1600s and look at the text here. Go to one that's a full page. These are a little more complicated,
Whoa.
Oh my God.
but this is the date, 18th of, up here, a list a month. I don't know what month this is. I'd have to look at another page probably, but Anna Maria of Johann Beckschoer, maybe, and Elizabeth Levans. So, you have to figure out the script here as you read through it.
Mm.
But I think we'll talk about script reading later on. But some of these records are just incredibly, elegantly written. You may be able to find some other information in them, going to one that's more recent here, another baptismal record. And you can tell when different priests are writing the records too. Some priests are really good, some have really terrible handwriting. This one here is another very, very easy one to read. And you see here, these are some notes. So this child was December 10th, I think 1897. Nope. This is the other problem. Some of them write the day, and so you have to figure out what the day is here. So it's whatever that day is. It's 20 something, I think, December 1897, and then 3rd of January. And then you see here that the child died the 24th of November, 1898. So they were baptized 3rd of January, 1898, and they died the 24th of November, 1898. So look for those extra notes. This one here is November, or 11th of January. Yeah, so he was baptized January 11th. He died January 11th. And then this one's got a lot of notes in it here. So something happened on 30 April 1950. So this might be a wife born, and so it might be his wife's name, and she was born, that's her maiden name maybe. So yeah, it takes a little bit of time, but you definitely read through those notes when you're looking at the German records. But in the US records, other things to look at, if you have a county history that may be published, go to Google Books and look to see if there's a county history that's written there. They may, indicate that where the person came from when they immigrated to the area. If you're lucky enough that they're in the book, sometimes they're not. They're not in the books. Make sure you look at those obituaries, because sometimes in those small towns they'll write a lot of information about a person when they die. I had one person, he was 19 years old, and he had a column and a half in the newspaper.
Wow.
Yeah, and basically he didn't do anything. It said, he was living at home. He hadn't had a job yet. He had just, he was still living on the farm. And I joke about it because the whole column and a half was all the things he hadn't done yet in his life. So,
Where do you find these obituaries most of the time?
so in the newspapers, and that was just a talk I gave at 1:30 to the Halifax Genealogy Society meeting. There are a lot of really good resources for newspapers. One source that I recommend is the Ancestor Hunt blog. They have a whole section on finding newspapers. and you can go by state and look at the state newspaper lists that they have. If you're getting into German newspapers, you'll want to look at Europeana, Europeana. And Europeana is the archives for European records. And I'm going to go in, and what I'll do is I'll pull up a couple of these records here, and I will share this also so that you can see it. Share. Okay. So this is the presentation I just gave, and let's see. So here from Wikipedia, if you go to Wikipedia and search list of online newspapers, you'll get the Wikipedia page on newspaper archives online. And that page goes by country. And you can go down to the country you're looking for and click on that country. And if it's in the United States, you click on the state. And it'll list all the newspapers that they have in their record sets. So you're not actually searching the newspapers on Wikipedia. You're finding the links to the record collections someplace else.
Yeah.
The Ancestor Hunt, if you just go to theancestorhunt.com, and they'll have on their menu newspaper research, and click on that, and you can go to the state that you're looking for and find the records that are there. And Cindy's List also has newspaper records available. Let's see. What I'll do is I'll copy these three here, and I'm going to go back. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this. Let's see. I'll post those in the discussion area in just a minute. Let's see. If you're looking in New York, you want to go to fultonhistory.com or fultonsearch.org. These are a great collection of New York newspapers. They're currently down. He's had 2 server failures in the last month. So he's waiting on parts for his server to replace that, and then those will come back up again. This is Europeana right here. And I'm going to see if I can go to that. I'm going to open that link. Okay. So this is Europeana's newspaper collection. And it contains thousands. It's 18 million pages of newspapers from Europe. And at the top of it is the historic newspaper collection. And I'm just going to click on that one. And you can see all these newspapers. If I go into country, you can see Germany, 378,000 pages of newspapers. Austria, Spain, France, all the way down. Bulgaria, there's only 10. But if I go to Germany and hit apply, now you're going to see all of these newspapers from Germany. And when you click on them, this is from 1881. And there you go. You have this newspaper from 1881 that you can then go through and find information on.
You know whether you can search those by surname?
So when you go back to the main page here, there are 10 million newspaper pages converted to full text, and those are the searchable ones. So there's 18 million pages total, 10 million are converted to full text. And you have to read through these to, there we go, search, whoops, go back here a second. Yeah, so you'll see that one down here, search our historic newspapers. And let's see. So here are the different library collections, and I'll see if I can find Germany here. There we go, German National Library. Let's see, does this work? No. They've switched the page around. This is a prototype page, so it's different than what it was previously. Yeah, there is a search engine in here. I have to find it now that they've changed this around. Oh, let's try that. Search. Let's see. So there's a search here. Let's just see. No. Okay, so let's go back to the newspaper articles again. Come on. Having a little bit of slow connection here. There we go. Up top here, it says search. And so this is where you can search the ones you're looking for. And I'll just see if there's a Westerheide. If there's not a Westerheide, we'll try another one. There we go. So 18,000 results. And then you can click on the image. And you'll have to, I think you have to read through them to find the words that you're looking for. I don't think it highlights them, but you'll know that it's on this page here someplace. So yeah, there is that search. It's right at the top of the page then. So those are a couple of the newspaper sites. There's also a German newspaper site here. And I want to open that link. We're getting a little off our topic of US records, but you can see here, this is the German newspaper site. So you can go in and, you know, look through these, do searches and so on. There are 193 historical newspapers, 311,000 issues of those papers. And it doesn't tell me how many pages total, but, you know, I would guess that if there's 311,000 issues, that there's at least 1 or 2, maybe 3 million pages available there. Let's see. And plus your states may have their own collections. So like here, Florida's digital newspaper collection is at University of Florida's library online. Ohio has theirs, New York State, you know, so you can look in Google your state newspaper archives and see if your state has a newspaper archives that's available that you can search there. And let's see. Yeah, the rest of these are all descriptions of what kind of information you would find. So those would be the areas where I would look. I would, you know, start out with the U.S. newspapers and see if they have obituary collections or anything like that that might list the place of birth. And that would be Wikipedia, Ancestor Hunt, or the state pages. There is also another page in here called Elefind. And has anybody ever used Elefind? So this is a newspaper search engine. It covers 3,600 titles and 3.5 million pages. So you can search the Chronicling America as well as other collections simultaneously through here. And it'll give you the list of, if I go to open link there. So here's your Elefind, and I'm just going to use Bielefeld. And so now you'll see that, you know, the newspapers come up. You can tell it to only look in Indiana or Chronicling America or California, Virginia. You know, so all of these collections are being searched at this, you know, with that search. And when you click on the record, this one goes to Australia, the Trove records in Australia. And then there's the record right here. And then this is the text version of it right there. So the Trove does the record plus the text. So a great resource there. A couple bonus sources for you. I'm gonna, let's see. Yeah, so these are, those are the links that some of the links that we were talking about on the other site to find your newspaper articles for your area. One of the things I also suggest is with the newspapers, you check your states, see if they have a newspaper archive. Check your local libraries for the area. Because like I'm researching Mercer County, Ohio, and Polly would be happy to hear this. The county libraries have their own newspaper collections. So if you go to the Coldwater newspaper collection, you get one part of the county. If you go to the Salina Library's newspaper collection, you get another part of the county. And so they don't necessarily overlap, but they're the same county library system. They have different newspapers in that record, and they're all local newspapers for that area. Again, for Holly, I use Minster, Ohio, which is Auglaize County, the county south of that, and it covers Minster and Mercer County, all of the small towns in Mercer County, but it doesn't cover New Bremen, which is the next town next to it, which is where Polly's family comes from. So you can't do New Bremen research in Minster, which I really find annoying because New Bremen has three of their own newspapers, and they don't put any of their newspapers online. So as far as I've been able to tell. So, but check your local libraries for the area you're searching for. They may have a newspaper collection. Check your historical societies. They may have their newspaper collection. The Minster Historical Society has newspapers from 1888 to 2019. All of the editions are available online at no cost. So, check your local historical societies, see if they have anything. And in my area in Minster, Ohio, the newspapers were written in German for a good number of years until World War I. After World War I, they all went to English. So.
I found that in Indiana too. When I did
Yeah.
Chronicling America and put in Indiana, then a lot of them that come up are in German, and
Yep.
I can't read them.
So what you can do with the German newspapers, there's a web page called newocr.com. It's NEWOCR.com. You can clip the image of the article you're looking at, and it works for 122 different languages and texts. So you can clip the article, you can upload it to newocr.com, and you can tell it to transcribe it. And it'll transcribe it from the German Fraktur to German. And you have to check it to make sure that the transcription is correct. But then you can take that transcription and bring it to Google Translate and have it translate to English.
And that's free?
It's free.
That's cool.
See, you always get a couple bonus sites when, during the presentations. So, things that'll help you with your research. And I'll type that one in here too.
Thanks. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So newocr.com. So where has everybody else found their record? What's the record that you've found that's giving you that jump across the ocean that gets you into the German research? Nothing?
For me, it's just that baptism record.
Yeah, the baptism records.
Before I'm not too good with all this computer thing, but quite a few years ago, I started to write to the churches before
Yes.
they all went to the centralized place.
Mhm.
And I've got a lot of information from individual churches. The big problem was paying them. Oh, it was awful to have to pay them. You had to go
Yes.
to the bank, and they couldn't figure out how to do it. And there was no PayPal kind of a thing. So
Right.
I got a lot of wonderful information from the individual churches at that time.
Yeah, I had sent an email to one of the state archives in Germany, and they responded back saying, we don't carry that kind of record, but we can tell you, here's the church that you need to talk to, and here's the person you need to contact. And here's
they
their
still do
here's their
that.
email address.
Yeah. They were very helpful.
Yes.
And I don't know how to look into that other place you said to go, that big central thing. I haven't done that yet, but that's next maybe.
I was thinking there was another record that I just had go into my mind and now it disappeared on me. So
That happens.
that happens. Yes. Trying to remember what it was. So I think, well, last month I showed you guys a small video that was being done by the local historical society in Fort Laramie, Ohio. They did a 3-part video series on the Poppelman family, which happens to be one of my lines, and the immigration. And so I think I provided a link to that last time. If not, we'll talk about it later because we're going to do a discussion on the voyages and talk about the trips people had to take, what were the challenges they had. And one of the things, and you probably might not be able to see this, and it's probably backwards, but this is a book titled Livat Boki. And it is 1807 to 1882. Okay. This is her diary, her journal from 1807 to 1882. And you can see that she was a very accomplished artist. And so the entire diary is illustrated with her artwork. So like in this case here, and we'll see if you guys can see this, this talks about the farm implements that they used on their farm. And she diagrammed all of them. She did an inventory on her, well, this was the town she lived in Germany. And this is the windmills in her town that she had drawn out. She diagrams out the entire inventory for her trunk that she took to the United States. So here, for example, you see her writing. This is all copied from her writing, and then it's all translated into English for the inventories of things that she had with her and words and stuff of that sort. So we're going to talk a little bit about this when we get to that, the discussion on voyages. And hopefully I'll have some of these images scanned and in a PowerPoint presentation, so it's easier to see than me doing this. And this is a book that was published by the local historical society up in Ohio. So,
Don't you wish one of your ancestors would do that?
it's not one of my ancestors, but they settled in the same community, and they came from the same community in Germany.
Oh.
So it's, and they talk about, you know, she starts out, you know, writing her diary, her journal in Germany and what's going on. She talks about the local church and the priest and the windmills and the farms and everything. And then it goes to, you know, how they got to Bremerhaven to get on the ship to Bremen, and then to come to the United States. So she has a whole series in there about the ship travel, and then getting into, I think they came in Baltimore, and then going on a covered wagon to the Ohio River, and then getting on a riverboat, and then getting on a canal boat, going up, getting to the property, which was totally forested, and having to clear all that property. And then she diagrams the house that they built and the community. And she talks about it being so dark. The trees were so thick that it was so dark you couldn't see during the day without a flashlight or, you know, a torch. It talks about meeting the Indians, you know, all of the wildlife. And so it goes through that whole discussion. So it's a very interesting narrative of what the experience was like coming from Germany to the United States for her and her family, and as well as many of the people that took that same voyage.
Wow.
So yeah, we'll have that discussion. Let me see if I have that. Let me just pull up my list here. Whoops, wrong one. There it is. And let's see, next in November, we will be talking about the family history guide to aid your German research. In December, we'll talk about the family search wiki for German research. I'm going to share this also so you guys can see it. There we go. So you should be able to see it here. So November is the family history guide. December is the family search wiki. January, we'll talk about the voyage. February will be exploring maps. March will be German church records. And then April, we'll talk about our ancestors' lives. So some of the things that you may have discovered during these, discussions here, we want everybody to bring stories of their ancestors, the occupations that they had, what their lives were like in Germany, if you've been able to discover anything, and we'll have that discussion in January. So, and you should have access to this syllabus. It should be in the German gig on the IRGS website.
Yes, it is.
So if you want to follow it, you can pull that up, and so you'll know what we'll be discussing each month. And that way you can prepare and have your story ready.
That's right.
You're doing a great job.
So we're just over an hour. Do you guys have any other questions or anything else that you want to discuss?
No, it was great. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we'll have this up, and I'll send the link over to Mike, and he'll post it on the gig site later on this weekend, and so everybody can watch it again if you want to.
Thank you.
Great.
Great,
Yeah,
thanks.
thank you.
That's very
Okay.
good.
Well,
And you,
good, Miles. Thank you.
yep,
Yeah,
and you all
excellent.
should have the invites. It should be a repeating invite in your calendar. So if it's not, let me know. We'll use that same link every month.
At what time will it be?
3:30.
3:30, okay.
Yep, I get off work at 3, so I got to get a chance to turn on the computer and come in here and set up my background so I know what where I'll be.
Where you be?
That's right.
Okay, well, it was great talking to you all. We'll see you guys next month.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thanks, Miles.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.